Hello everybody, JJ here, and today I'm going to just talk about weapon placement in Space Engineers. I'm going to go through 6 small grids and 4 large grids, and just talk about what I was thinking when I built them and all the weapons placement stuff for them. As well as kind of like the general things to know about placing weapons in this game, because if you place them poorly, they're not going to be effective, and all that, you know? So let's get straight into it, starting off with the large grids. This is not going to have a build part at the end of it, by the way, but I'm basically going to talk about each of the ships, the weapons placement, what I was thinking when building it, and how effective they are in any combat if they have seen any. Yeah. Some of these haven't actually seen any combat, I'm pretty sure. Other than maybe mock-up combat. I'm talking about this behemoth here. But yeah. So we're going to start off with the large ships. This is actually not the oldest ship here. The oldest ship is the third large ship we're looking at. This is the Raptor. It is a Corvette. It has 6 primary turrets and a static railgun. Now, first of all, general rule of thumb for turrets, place them in ways... I mean, this I probably could have done a little better. Can't depress very much with that same. But place them in ways where they won't block each other's fire. So you'll see the assault cannon turret isn't blocking the Gatling gun's fire, which isn't blocking the artillery gun's fire because it fires from the barrels, not from the middle. Meaning the artillery gun can fire kind of over and under the Gatling turret. So yeah, just weapons placement in general, you want your turrets to not block each other, because that's just going to be stupid. This goes for all turret placement on any grid. Just don't block one turret with another right in front of it. Then for static weapons, I would say... Well, a little bit of lag, sorry. For static weapons, I would say just try not to place for some... Like, for Gatling guns and autocannons especially, try to put the camera before, like, in front of the gun, so that you don't get blinded when it fires. I will show that off with these small grids. But yeah. So in general, for weapons, you just don't want them to block each other, and you don't want them to blind the camera if you're using it. Also, something I'll get with the third ship, you want good firing arcs. I wouldn't say the Raptor or the Raptor Mark II, which is designed to be more of a cargo corvette instead of an actual combat ship. I'd say these two aren't very good with their firing arcs. This one's a bit worse because it's not meant to be in dedicated combat if it doesn't have to be, you know? And then we've got more of this. Now for rockets, it doesn't really matter because you're gonna get blinded either way by the smoke trails of firing. There's no muzzle flash for this. For railguns, muzzle flash isn't that bad. Same for assault and artillery, because they don't fire too quickly, so unless you have something like a salvo script running, you're not gonna run into any issues with those. But it's mostly for Gatling guns and autocannons. And if you have a lot of railguns or artillery or something. Yeah, this is the same gun, slightly different placement. Slightly worse placement for firing arcs because of this. However, this can protect them a little better. Oh, and also just try to... This is an aesthetic thing. Try to give your turrets mount points where they're mounted to, kind of like near the artillery turret being on a rounded plate. It just makes it seem more sturdy and durable. And you could also make the mount points out of heavy armor, which for bases, at least, I'm not going to cover specific bases here, but for bases I recommend underneath turrets, heavy armor, and then maybe a cargo container to serve as a magazine in case the conveyors get shot up, because bases can't dodge, last I checked. Now for the Blood Crow, this ship, I would say has... It represents the firing arcs point relatively nicely. Oh, this is the Blood Crow. Oh, I know this is the Mark II. Okay. I had some changes that I made to this because of the bottom being very... I'm not going to go into the statics that I changed. For this, yeah, rockets. Nothing there, it's just rockets. Doesn't do much. Doesn't blind you very much with the camera. And then the turrets here have decent firing arcs, especially the Gatling guns, being able to basically cover their entire field of view, up, down, and forward. And then same with the assault cannons even, just being able to fire quite far. However, this thing does have less turrets and exposed hydrogen tanks. I don't think either of the Raptors have them. Slightly on the Mark 1, but very little. And the Mark 2 is completely internal hydrogen tanks because they're more in the front instead of the back. Then this is somewhat of a highly gunned up ship. I would not be using this in combat very much. But for this, 4 rockets at the front, just at the bow, you know. These Gatling... Here's the thing, the guns on this... I'm not counting the interior turrets, by the way. The guns on this are not blocking each other's fire very much. However, the firing arcs of each gun are kind of restricted by the amount of guns. So, here, it doesn't play in too much because there aren't that many, but if I put gun right next to gun, bad firing lives. But, yeah. Once again, here it's not painted gray, so it looks a little bit less stable because it just doesn't fit the more strong aesthetic that the gray bits being like more durable internal stuff to hold the ship together, you know, and the blue and white bits being armor. Yeah. But it still has that, like, visible when you're close to it, base for the gun to be connected to. But yeah. So that's just basically, for turrets, good firing arcs are key, and don't block them with other turrets is key. For static guns, try to keep the camera in front of the gun so that the muzzle flash doesn't blind you. And we're not going to cover any interior turrets today. If you do want to see those, do tell. And I will make a separate video on that. But now to get to the small grids, we're going to start here with the Scepter Mark III. Also, for all of these, other than the Blood Crow, have only really been in mock-up battles. This one's been the enemy in mock-up battles, but all of these haven't really been in battles other than the Raptor and the Blood Crow. Raptor having been in a very unfair fight against a gunbrick, and losing because it's a lore ship, not a warship. Yeah, I mean, it is a warship in the lore, but for actual PvP, I wouldn't recommend any of these other than maybe this frigate if you use it as a corvette. Because just, it's got layers upon layers of light armor, but it's pretty easy to snipe the cockpit on all of these because I like exposed bridges in cockpits. Looks nicer. And the Blood Crow has been in several MES encounters. But yeah, to fighters, this is the Mark III of the Scepter class Interceptor. It is designed for specifically an MES, whatever it's called, AI, like the NPC AI mod that adds those to MES stuff. It's designed for that. It's got 4 Gatlings, like the first variants of the Scepter, the first 2. And it actually just improved thrust and added these searchlights and landing legs, I'm pretty sure. I think that's all this one added. And maybe this one was the one that added a 3rd fuel tank. But the Scepter Mark IV is, once again, the Gatlings are in the same place. I used a Recalibrable Thrusters mod for thrusters, so don't worry, they're not modded. They're still vanilla small hydros. And it adds some rockets as well, which I kind of tried to embed in so it looks cool. And for both of these fighters, all of the guns are behind the camera, meaning the camera will not be blinded by the Gatling guns firing. However, you will be blinded, but the camera will not. Yeah. So that's kind of showing camera is usually what you use to aim, and therefore you'll want your camera to, you know, not get blinded. It is kind of blinding like this, though. But as a last ditch, you can still use the cockpit windows for that. Then here, we're going to go to another ugly ship I've built relatively recently. This was a few months ago. It's ugly. I know. It's got horrible weapons base placement, you know, here for the autocannon turrets. These autocannon turrets have a nice base. It's just not painted gray. And then so do the assault cannon turrets, actually. They fit quite well on the same base as the autocannons. Good to know. I forgot all about that. But this one's basically just railgun spam with turret support. So, yeah. This one does not follow the rule of putting camera in front of gun, but with railguns, it's really just one big flash unless you're using a salvo script. So, yeah. Here's the NDLC. This is named after no DLC, you know. It's got 4 static guns, no turrets, and is relatively short range with only having small hydrogen tanks, like everything but this guy, and this guy, and all the large grids. Like all those 4 of the small grids only have small. My keyboard's glitching. Oh god. I'm trying to move closer. So this one is kind of bugged with the camera. Or not bugged. Sorry. It's not bugged with the camera. It gets blinded by the camera. Actually, I can show off that. It kind of blinds you a little, which is the annoying part, because it makes it hard to track an enemy if there's a lot of flashing and lights, because your eyes can't really get used to the thing. But for the autocannons, it works fine. Primarily because they're far behind the camera. And then here, this is the Mark II of a gunship I built, which does not follow the camera rule again, but displays how you could place turrets on a small grid. This needs to be moved forward a block, actually, this gun. I still have to do that, because these thrusters burn it because of the stupid hitbox. You see that tiny green corner? That is what gets burned by the thrusters there and there. So this turret, you need to move forward. Yeah, you need to make sure thrusters don't burn the stupid turret hitboxes, especially on a small grid. Where you would think this is a 3x3x3 turret, right? Nope. It's not. It's a 5x5x4 turret. This one, I believe, is 7x7x5. That totally makes sense, right? Right, people? But yeah, it's got embedded weapons, especially for the rocket. This is quite embedded for safety. But then here's the first fighter I actually tried to build in the style of the Raptor, kind of. It's got 2 railguns, which do not follow that rule, but for railguns, it's only a very short blindness burst, so it doesn't really matter. Though this also means if one of these gets shot up, it can start smoking, which can start making it difficult to see when you're flying around. Especially if that happens to both of them. You know, this is just going to make it painful to see. But the Gatling guns are back here. And yeah. So I know this isn't really what... I can't really say how you should put your weapons on your ship in the TLDR. This is me showing off some of my ships, some effective, some not effective. By the way, none of these ships, other than the Devastator Mark II, the NDLC, and the Scepter Mark III, have seen actual combat. The Mark IV is built, like, a few weeks ago, and I just haven't had a chance to use... Actually, it has seen some combat. Or was that... Or did I build this? Because we didn't have rockets, so it didn't really make sense to build this one, I don't think, so I built that one. None of these have seen more than mock combat, other than the Devastator, the NDLC, and the Scepter Mark III. With the Mark III taking out an enemy light cruiser, because it managed to bridge snipe my team's frigate, but then I was able to shoot up the cruiser enough to cause it to crash. NDLC saw a little bit of combat, but not nearly as effective in combat as the Scepter Mark III. And the Devastator was quite effective when I built it, other than the fact that the forward gun kept on burning itself to death. But yeah, the Devastator Mark I used custom turrets, which I'm not covering, just because they're very complex and they're a whole separate thing. So do comment below if you want custom turret tutorials. I can make a tutorial on that. But yeah, this was quite an effective ship when I built it. I just need to fix it before I build it again. But yeah, that will be it, I believe, for this video. So comment down below what you want to see more of. there isn't really anything I can talk about for weapons placement, really, other than the general rules of thumb of don't blind the camera or the cockpit if you don't have to, and give your guns good firing arcs if they're turrets, which, yeah. And then for mounting the turrets, just try to maybe give them a base to sit on. It just looks nicer, you know? Even this looks quite nice because there's at least armor there for it to clamp onto a little. Just makes it look a bit more durable. And if you can, embed the guns in, kind of like the rockets here. This is kind of embedded in as well, though not as much as the rockets. Yeah. I can't really say much more. Like, static weapons, embed them, keep them relatively safe. Turrets, good firing arcs. I'm repeating it over and over because that is all that I can really say for this. Just because there's really not that much other than like how you actually build your ship that will determine how good the guns are. But this hopefully can help you build your ship a little better with gun placement in mind. And hopefully you won't create an abomination such as this absolute brick of a monstrosity. It's not a gun brick, because interior turrets are set not to shoot at fighters, but like they're just shooting down characters or rockets. Still, it's ugly as fuck. This is by far my favorite Anthraptor. But yeah, that'll be it for this. That'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.